Let's talk about the Baja 500. Just got home, and man, it was a wild one. We'll start off with, it went pretty well. There were some ups and downs, but basically in this video, I'm gonna give you a play-by-play of the course, what happened from my perspective as far as strategy, racing, problems, whatnot. So we'll dive into it. Straight in, started in Ensenada like we typically do. One thing that was new is we had to start at very early, which in my opinion was very nice because we got done a little earlier and we got through some of the heat a little faster. It was still really, really hot in the desert, but yeah, so we had to line up at 5 a.m., which us trophy truck drivers weren't a huge fan of that. But I kind of switched my schedule. I started pre-running every day around 5:30, 6:30, just knowing that I'd be racing at 6:15, which is, usually we're starting at like 9. So yeah, started in Ensenada. We do kind of a parade start out of the Ensenada downtown. Then we hop out of town. As soon as we hop on the dirt, it's speed zone 37, and you're kind of just tiptoeing through town, which always I hate starting in speed zone because you're all wound up and then you go and you can only go 37. So yeah, you get in 37 and it's slow, and then you're like, I want to go. So it's a couple miles out of town till we hop on and we're able to go fast right off the get-go. It's our same road. We know it pretty well. I was third off the line after qualifying third, which I was very happy with. We'll talk about qualifying for a sec. Qualifying was super tight technical, which I think fit my driving style, but I'm still getting used to this all-wheel drive. That was my first time, not my first time, but one of the most aggressive, tight sections I'd ever driven that thing. And the score throws a course at us where if you make a mistake, consequences are big. Either, you could see Jason McNeil, he didn't even end up racing the race because they totaled the car. Herps totaled the car in qualifying. So that kind of shows you mentally you're man, I gotta go. But deep down you're I have to keep the truck in one piece and whatnot. So yeah, qualifying, I kind of just played it safe, tried not to make any mistakes, my main goal was keep it on the road, keep it moving forward with minimum mistakes. I had minimum mistakes, couple little things. Ended up third behind Toby and Alan, two of the fastest, kind of wildest dudes in the desert. So I was stoked. So yeah, third off the line. As soon as we drop the green, we're out of the speed zone, we're back to race now. So once we get going, one of the big things that was very different than normal, since it was so early, we had large amounts of fog, which fog plus dust. Plus the sun was starting to come up. So once we got more out of town towards Ojos, we had serious sun glare coming through the fog and the dust. It was actually really challenging. I've driven that road blind a ton because of spec trophy truck racing. We always were in the back behind a lot of people, but I was third off the line and there was a couple full lights out moments where I couldn't see. Luckily Mike Kim was guiding me, but there was points where I really had to kind of slow down. And whatnot, which in a trophy truck, when you slow down, you're what am I doing? But the fog was so thick, it was there was moisture all over our visors, and then the combination of dust just sitting with no wind, all of a sudden your visor, it was covered in moisture and just kind of this muddy film. So that made it a little interesting. As soon as we popped into Ojos though, that kind of cleared up, which was very, nice to get that cleared up, get some clean air. Toby and Alan put a little time on me from there to then. I kind of expected it because I was dude, I don't want to drive off the road. And Toby had, he was dealing with just the fog. Alan was just dealing with a little bit of fog and dust. I was dealing with both of them, which the guys behind me were dealing with a lot more. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that was the truth. So I was good there. Once we get into Ojos, it's pretty standard. Getting to there. Now they threw kind of a new section at us, which had a lot of silt and kind of twist turny in the beginning as soon as we get out of the speed zone in Ojos. Through that section, the dust was still hanging, so I was just kind of playing it smart. There was a lot of trees and rocks and lines going everywhere, because since it was new terrain, there was no like defined line burned in, which there was, but then everyone was exploring. So you'd come over crests and there'd be 7 different lines every way, and you're like, you know, you had your notes, you know, middle one, but now there's 3 middle ones. So I really kind of just took my time through there. I felt good in it, but we kind of just paced through there. Once we dropped into there, we kind of got in some typical really rough whatnot. I kind of just tried to stay in my groove and focus on my thing. Then you drop in over by Tres Hermanos, and you kind of make a left turn, and from there on, there's some silt, and then we drop into some rocky, kind of really narrow canyons. Jumping straight into that in the race, you know, that's mile like 40, 50, which for us is like, you're just still kind of getting warmed up. So jumping straight into that, it's always a little nerve wracking. You're going through these like tunnels of bushes with rocks, these like riverbeds. So I kind of just took my time through there. I felt like I was in a good groove. And you know, it's so early on the race, you don't really know where you're sitting. Everyone, the split times, everything's kind of, there's a lot going on. So I just kind of picked my way through there, hopped through this. We did like this first little summit crossing, the El Alamo summit, I think they call it. But you know, tight kind of mountain climbing, not crazy, but narrow roads. Through there, I just was like, hey, get in the groove, find your thing. And I felt like I really did get in my groove there. And then, so you go through there, then you kind of get in some more open, fast, flowy dirt roads, ups and downs, with some rocks, so you gotta be really careful in there. And then you drop into El Alamo Road, which is kind of gnarly. We were doing like 130 something down this graded dirt road, which occasionally there's little holes, washouts. Yeah, it's kind of just one of those things that's not the most comfortable. Like, it's not bad, but you're like, dude, I'm going 130 down this dirt road right now. And there's like some blind crests and stuff, so it's, you know, makes it a little fun. I'm not going to lie, dude, 130 is fast on dirt. It doesn't, I mean, it becomes normal, but at the same time, it's still like, you're like, oh, we're going pretty quick right now. You know, it takes a lot to slow down. So there we cross the Highway 3, and then we jump into some really, really, really tight technical new stuff. A lot of lines that had been bushwhacked. So when we crossed the Highway 3, we were actually first on time. We had everyone we had Toby by like a couple seconds, and then everyone else by a little bit more. So I was like, hey, that's good. I'm gonna cruise and just keep my pace through here, and you know, just be smart. There's no, we're at mile like 70 of a almost 500 mile race. Let's not, and there's, you know, we got to cross 2-3 more mountain ranges. Like, let's focus here. So through all this tight techie stuff, that was all kind of new. My goal, for me, it was my first time really driving the all-wheel drive in something that tight. So it took me a little, I'm not gonna lie, to like get into my groove through there. And I really never got in a groove, but it's so choppy. I don't know if you'll ever really get in a groove through that until it opens up more. So for me, I was like, hey, let's just play it smart. Do that, once you get through that, then you hop on some old race course that we've ran before, and then some new stuff, but it's all just really kind of choppy, doesn't flow. The stuff that does start to flow has huge whoops. So it was kind of like, it was not my favorite part of the course, in my opinion. Like, it was good, but it was like, okay, let's get through this stuff. So from like 75 to like mile 90, that was kind of the situation. Then there's this section of this like white, you come over this ridge and there's just all these white rocks. And it's kind of it's this like white, smooth, sandstone-y rock, or it's not sandstone, but it's kind of like a granite. I don't know. Through there, it's hard to read the terrain, and I totally messed up and smoked a huge ledge in this white sandstone-y stuff, and ended up bending my my sector shaft, which is like the steering. So basically my steering wheel, you know, I have paddle shifters, and they move with the steering wheel. So as I turn, they're here, here, here. Well, now my steering wheel is like this, which just not fun. So, because your paddles are here, so going straight, this is straight. So you're like, it's weird reaching, and then it also limits your steering now because it's bent. So one side has less steering, one side has more steering. And let's just know I have to cross a mountain range now, because this is at like mile like 90-ish, and at like mile like 115, there's a huge thing called the summit, which is very gnarly, technical, huge cliffs. We'll get into that in a sec. But so mentally, I'm like, you know, last split, we're up on time. Now we're doing this, huge hit, front end feels weird. I'm just going, what did you just do, Christopher? You really just, you messed up. And you know, it's one of those things I'm learning. These trucks are different. So yeah, I was a little, mentally I had to kind of regroup myself. Unfortunately that caused about 5 miles later, that front tire began to leak and went down. And so we had to change it, which I was really impressed that it held for that long, because it was a really big hit, especially to bend the sector shaft like it did. Yeah, big, yeah, so got out. Mike Kim, we came to a stop, really struggled to find a good spot. We were in these like cactusy and stuff, so get out. Mike Kim jumps out super quick. No one got by us. So yeah, so we do that. And then at that point, I'm like, okay, we got to do a re-rack, which is, you know, putting a new spare tire in the back. We have 2, but we're about to cross a mountain summit and then go into the desert where it's extremely rocky, high speed, risky with 1 tire, which I was like, oh man. So no one could pass us there, but I'm like, okay, we got to get in a groove. We got about 10 miles before we have another pit vehicle. So we get up to, so we start from that. It becomes right after that section where I got the flat, it gets high speed, kind of open, graded roads towards Nuevo Junction. Nuevo Junction, my boy Bryce and some of my, you know, we had one of our Raptors there with stuff. So we pulled in there, they re-racked a tire super fast. I was really nervous that we were gonna get past there, which I just didn't want to get past before going into the summit. They got us out right in front of Tavo, which was really good. So going into the summit, my mentality was, get through this, Christopher. Don't make any more mistakes, because you already kind of blew it here. And also, I will be honest, in the past, I drove off a cliff in the summit. There's 2 different summits. There's a couple different ways we cross the same mountain range. And a couple years back, I actually drove off the edge of it. So mentally, you know, I'm not the best in some of this tight technical stuff. So I was like, okay, keep it together, Christopher. Don't do this. So really just maintained my pace through there. Just tried to get in a flow of keeping things, you know, protecting the truck, protecting us. Don't drive off the 1,000-foot cliff. That'd be kind of cool, you know, to not do that. So did that. At that point, it was good, smooth. I think we put a little bit of time on Tavo, which was good, got a little bit of gap. Once you drop through the summit, which, I mean, there's just some really uncomfortable spots. We'll clip in some spots, but dude, there's just points where you're like rubbing on your left side and then it like picks up like this. And then there's like, I don't know, at least a 500-foot just cliff. And your tire's this far from the edge and you're like, luckily the Fox live valve, so we have electronic live valve shocks. We're able to tune them in the truck. Mike Kim, who navigates for me, he's the main live valve tuner, double plus, coolest technology, smart guy to work it. So we had like a summit mode or like a very soft mode. So it made it a lot more comfortable in there as far as like driver and co-driver experience of not like bouncing around as much, but it's nerve wracking. So did that. Once we got through there, yeah, dropped down, cleared that all clean, no big mistakes. Super sandy wash when you get to the bottom, and the rain had come through there and it just was not the most flowy. It was kind of really choppy. We had some good lines through there, kind of just picked our way through. Then we hop up on like this little plateau, which is just filled with about this size rocks, this size to this size rocks that you're kind of, it's like hard packed, so it's kind of high speed, but then you'll come around this like banked corner where it's all rocky and there's just piles of like just miscellaneous rocks. So you're like kind of on edge the whole time through there. And then you drop from there on, just got through there cleanly. Then you drop into some big high speed sand washes, which there's lines everywhere. So it's really, important for me and Mike to be communicating in there, just making sure we hit our lines. We spent a lot of time in there pre-running, just kind of finding what flows the best. Okay, maybe it's a little longer out here on the outside, but in an all-wheel drive trophy truck, we're gonna be doing 95, 100, I know, like, or we can be cutting it, but we're only going 70. So it's like a lot of like pre-running in there and taking your time and kind of figuring out what's going to flow the best, which an all-wheel drive trophy truck, if that thing is pointed straight, it wants to go. So that's our goal. We're always looking, straighter. Straighter is better. So did that, got through there. At that point, we dropped into a wash. We're wide open. All of a sudden, the dust, I see Amputia's helicopter circling, the dust in front of me kind of dwindling off, and I see my boy Alan Amputio on the side, on the right, changing a flat. I'm like, boom, all right, let's get back to it. At this point, I knew Toby was pretty far out front. He had had a good run, clean, and so I was like, let's just put our head down. Is he gonna be able to maintain this? That was kind of my mentality. I'm gonna cruise, set my race, make my points from here on, and go. So at this point, we're in San Felipe Desert, super high speed, washes, graded, just kind of choppy desert roads. We pick our way through here, then we hop down by like Laguna Salada, super high speed, choppy, whoops. At that point, come into our first pit. My guys were on it, we pulled in there. It was quick, fast, 2 near rear tires, topped her off with fuel, which is probably about 90 gallons of fuel. I don't know what we're just filming this, so we haven't had like a debrief yet, so I don't know what our pit time was. I'd say it was definitely under 30 seconds, which makes me proud of my boys. Went through there. At that point, Toby had a good lead on us, but I knew, hey, like I said, I got to set my race. So work our way through there, go through La Ventana, which at that point, it becomes getting a little rockier. We're kind of in these rocky washes. It's fast, flowy. We raced here at San Felipe. We race here a ton. So I know that terrain really well. And I kind of just start clicking off. Then we, so all through there, big whooped out sections. Then we banged a right into a brand new wash we had never run before. At this point, I was like, we're going, making our way through there, and it was really hot. It was really hot. It was an uphill sand wash, and the temps were well over 110 degrees. So we started to, see some cooling. Things started to get a little hot, and I was like, let's just kind of cruise through here. Not cruise, but let's not wring the thing's neck. Let's just kind of do our thing. Unfortunately, the temps just kept climbing. And to a point where all of a sudden, towards the top of the sand wash, temps were getting uncontrollable. So we started to back her down. Back her down. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. But there's hard pack up here. Once we get on the hard pack, I bet you this thing's gonna cool down. We're going up a sandy, really soft wash right now, uphill. We get onto the hard pack, and we're going through like these silt bed areas and stuff, and the thing is just not cooling down. Mainly, it's climbing. And at this point, it's getting to a point where it could be devastating. It could start really messing things up. So we're trying to figure it out. We're looking at different stuff. We finally diagnosed the issue. But at that point, there wasn't a ton we could do out in the middle of the desert besides kind of just try to maintain. The more we slowed down, it got a lot hotter, so we kind of had to pick that happy medium while we were on the hard pack. Through there, we hopped on like this cut line we had, which then dropped us into a wash, which was not ideal with climbing temps. But I knew help was about 10 miles away, so we kind of just kept maintaining. Unfortunately, as we were kind of limping it through the wash, Alan Amputio went by, and then Tavo Vidolso went by. And so we're, mentally you just say, gosh, dang it, this is not, But truck's still running. We haven't damaged anything yet. The day's young. This is only at, it's a race mile 2 something. We got a long race ahead. This, we get to a road crossing. We have our pit guys there. We pull in. They're able to kind of fix the solution. well, not fix the solutions, fix the problem. They have a solution for the problem. They fix that, get that going. We pull out literally right in front of Luke McMillan. I'm sure he was not stoked. Into the sand wash, temps are back down. So now kind of time to focus, and I'm a little antsy. We get in these big, huge whoops, which my truck handles really good, so we get on top of, and we're kind of charging. I'm like, hey, I probably should slow her down a little, but I'm kind of like, you're so antsy, and boom, come over a rise, massive rock, flat tire. I gotta let the amateur in me get out, I got worked up, shouldn't have got worked up. So that point, super earned flat tire, just frustration. But it's one of those things. You live, you learn, you overcome. So we pull over, Luke McMillan right on our bumper, he passes by. We changed that, my Kim was quick. So at that point, big sand wash, and then we kind of go up towards San Matias. It's this windy wash along the highway. Then we hop into a speed zone in San Matias. Jimmy and my crew were there. They re-rack a tire real fast, and then highway zone. Then we make a left on Mike's. At this point, in my head, our days, it's not over, but it's, we're out of contention for the win unless things really start to change, which, you always gotta, this Baja, things happen. So for me, now my goal was, let's finish this race, no more problems, no more mistakes, no big risks, but don't fall off pace. So we go up Mike's, super fast, flowy, all that's good. Drop, go through Mike's, which going up Mike's is super fast. Like, it's fun, graded roads. We've done it so many times. The blind rises, everything. Like, it's one of those roads that especially in an all-wheel drive trophy truck, you're like, holy cow, we are going really fast right now, which is a lot of fun. So do that, and then you go through Mike's, a little water crossing, and then there's some really tight, technical, super rain-rutted hill climb kind of things. And so through there, I kind of just took my time. But yeah, the rain ruts there was one that literally it swallowed the whole right side of the truck, and you're kind of like, the videos just don't do justice of how big the rain ruts were. So do that. As soon as you clear that area, which it's pretty short, it's a couple miles, you make a right turn and drop into Simpson's, which is a way to exit Mike's. It's tight, technical, kind of big consequences if you go off the road, narrow roads, kind of slidey. Because I'll work our way down that. Simpson's was honestly in really good condition in my opinion, so it wasn't that bad. Not near a summit or something, but it's still, it's tight, technical. Once you drop down to Simpson's, a couple water crossings, and then just really tight, kind of weavy, but it's very burned in. We've raced there a lot in the past, so there's some whoops, whatnot. So you work your way all the way down through that. Then you hop back on a graded road, kind of coming into Valley T. We're just kind of cruising, making our way down. At that point, we're starting to catch a lot of bikes, which is always nerve-wracking. And most of the bike guys were super good. They got right out of the way. You feel really bad. We run them down really fast. They started 5 to 6 hours in front of us. So, it's worrying. So, the closing rates are pretty gnarly. Some sections they're doing 50, we're doing 90. So, or over 100. And so you come up on them really quick, and it's hard to tell. They make a lot of dust still, especially the quads. Unfortunately, there's a few that didn't want to pull over, which is never fun when you're like, dude, just get out of the way. And they're trying to outrun you. And you're like, dude, just let us by, man. You're not going to outrun us. I hate to be that guy, but it's just nerve wracking because they're on a bike kind of swapping all around and we're within a foot of them doing 40 miles an hour. And sometimes that's what it takes to get them to move. I hate it, but the problem is Toby went by faster. Everyone already got by him, so I got to get by him. So once we get on there, graded road, fast, flowy, then you make a left and there's just this, by Valley T, massive sand whoops, and you're just da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then it parallels the mountain. We come around the corner, I see a drive shaft in the middle of the road, and I'm like, that's interesting. Look right, Luke McMillan off to the side. And they got their helmets off, so I was like, that's weird. If it's just a drive shaft, it must be a lot more. Which they did have they had a bigger failure if they had their helmets off, and they were just chilling kind of. So boom, there's one guy. Okay. I'm like, okay, this is good. We're back a little, you know? So then you kind of hop on this rocky ridgeline, follow the telephone poles, and then you drop into the meadow. That was our second pit. Boys were really fast there too. Super proud of the whole team there. It was good, in, out, back on it. From that point on, you're in this tight kind of weavy section. You're in this kind of canyons. It's ups and downs, silty, tight. There's a couple super off camber. You're like, okay, let's just get through there. I've driven off in that section too before, I'm gonna be honest. So it's one of those things you like go by and you're like, whew, didn't drive off a cliff this day. And then next corner, you're like, oh, whoa, chill, Christopher. Getting a little too cocky. Get through there. At that point, you drop onto the crossover road. Crossover road is fast, flowy, kind of gravel roads. Super fast, and a lot of time can be made up there. A lot of time can be lost there, and there's a lot of places where you could drive off the road, and it'd be bad. It'd be bad. We saw Andy McMillan do it a couple years back with a massive crash. But it's super fun, fast flowing. Me and Mike Kim, I felt like we're in a really good groove. We were just kind of ripping through there. No big risks, but we were covering some time. We were making some ground, like, felt good. Started to get some split times after like the pits and stuff, and we were gaining on. So at this point, Tavo was in front of us, Alan was in front of us, and Toby's in front of us. Halfway through the crossover road, we get split times from one of our guys who was on the crossover road pitting, and he's like, hey, you're making up time. Toby had a huge lead on us. Tavo and Alan still had a pretty good gap, but we were gaining on everyone, which I was very happy of, especially because I felt like we were being somewhat conservative. Boom, Alan and Pudia out of the truck on the left. There's a second one. So now we have Toby, we have Tavo in front of us. At this point, I'm like, okay. I get splits. No one's near us in the back door as far as being concerning, as far as taking that third spot or, like passing us or, if we had an issue or something. So at this point, I'm like, okay, we're maintaining. See if these two guys in front of us have a perfect day or if something happens. Clear through there, through John Colorado, make a right on, so crossover ends, hop on the highway for a little, pull into San Vicente, wave to my people. Everyone, San Vicente's pumped because my boy Vicente's from there. From there on, we kind of drop down into some, big silt beds, farm fields, and then some rocky ridges, and then you drop down into the coast, drop into a sand wash. You have Arendara, drop into there. Then we run up the coast, which is just epic, fast, flowy consequences too. If you shoot off a cliff, you end up going swimming, and it's really rocky. It probably wouldn't be pleasant swim. I know my boy Jesse Jones did it years ago, somewhere along this road. So I really don't want to go swimming in the ocean. So we did that. That point, it's super fun. The weather's great. The truck's running good. We're just ripping. From there on, you kind of hop on then you start heading inland towards Santo Tomas. It's super fast graded road, just flowing. We're getting split times. We're making time on Tavo and Toby. And I'm just kind of trying to balance, learn the truck still, figuring out how to drive it on these roads better, really trying to dial in my braking. The all-wheel drive, the braking is huge because you're going a lot faster, you don't realize it. The truck weighs more, so trying to maintain your brakes, use them appropriately without overusing them, just enough to roll in perfect. It was challenging, and it was really fun to kind of just try to get some more seat time and dial it in on these graded roads, because that's where they make or break you. Either you come into a corner, you're like, man, I'm going way too slow, or you nail it, or you're like, we might shoot off this cliff right now. Hold on, we're gonna huck her in here, which we had a little bit of everything. I'm not gonna lie, I think Mike puckered up a couple moments, and then other moments he's like, let's go. Then sometimes he was like, that was a sick corner. So from there, clear Santo Tomas, highway zone. Then we go into Europan, which Europan is brutal. I've driven off a cliff in here too. I've kind of sold myself out on this video. But so from there, Europan is silty, dusty, massive rain ruts, and tons of blind corners. which I know I've said this about the whole course. This whole course was tight technical, but Europeans is just one of those things where it's like you're so close to the finish, like 100 miles to go, which is like, yeah, let's get this done and over with. But it's one of those sections where if you get a little too cocky or confident, it's gonna get you. It will get you. So through there, really tried to just maintain, but flow through there. I've got a lot of time in there, so it felt good. Especially in the all-wheel drive, it's awesome because you can just shoot up these rain ruts. We have these cool cut lines where we miss a lot of stuff, where like in a spec truck, it's tough to make up some of them, but with the all-wheel drive, you're just like, whoop, whoop, whoop. So once you clear there, and then you hop into some more windy, tight stuff, then there's a section where it's like a couple miles of ups, downs, ups, downs, ups, downs. Some of them you can fly, some of them will rip your front bumper off and you'll go end-doing. So you really got to be careful in there because by the end, you're like, I am tired of going up. You're like, So get through there, then you drop in, start making your way back towards Ojos. Drop down into Ojos, which is kind of some graded roads. He had us pretty quick in there, which was nice. There's like one muddy water crossing, which was, you could see all like the flies and stuff, and you're like almost to the finish, and you hit this like muddy, and it like goes everywhere, and you're just like, ugh. Get through there, get on a graded road. Graded road rips into Ojos, super high speed, some big roads where you're like, dude, we're cooking right now. And then speed zone into Ojos. Now from this point on, it's basically the same first 30 miles, but we're doing it in reverse. So we're going from Ojos to Ensenada. We get split times. There's no way we're making up on Toby. There's no way we're passing. We're getting to the edge of Tavo's dust at this point. There's no way we're gonna pass him in here. Unless he makes a mistake. And Bryce Menzies is behind us, but we had like a 10-minute gap or something. And we had a nice gap behind us. So to this point, I was like, let's just cruise. The sun's in our eyes. We're just kind of maintained our way down through there. It's some graded roads, rocky, tight, technical, but then it gets to a point where you're kind of just winding down the mountain and then hop into our final speed zone and go across the finish line, and then parade our way back down into Ensenada and celebrate. So I was pumped, third place. I really felt like we had a shot at the win, which, I'm like, let's like coming into it, I felt really confident. And so I was a little bummed like that we didn't get to, the cards didn't play in us, but for us to have some issues, overcome them, for me mentally, the team, the truck, I felt like, and we finally ran up front. We've ran up front, but this was our first, it was a podium. It was huge. Podium and a score trophy truck overall it's kind of one of those things. I had to kind of have a reality check at the finish because I'm like, deep down, I'm like, okay, what could I have done better? How could we prevent? Yeah, we had mistakes, we had stuff, but overall, I'm like, dude, you just ran with the best in the business and you just got third and you had some issues, like snap out of it. Like this is Christopher at 10 years old would have been losing it right now. Christopher at 20 years old. Christopher at 23 is still like, holy cow. It's kind of trippy, I'm hanging out with Toby Price, Alan Impudia, Bryce Menzies. I'm racing them, which I grew up watching a lot of these dudes. And it's our first year in trophy truck. So I was super, super happy in the end. Thankful of Optima and everyone who, supports us in this for making this like kind of, it seems so cliche, but this is a true like dream come true, which is one of those things you're like, man, it's pretty nuts. It's pretty nuts when you look back and you see, that we had 53 people on our team this race. I want to say like 12 or 13 support vehicles. It's an army, and in the end, it's all surrounding me, which is a little nerve-wracking. But I'm thankful. I'm like kind of just mind blown that it all is happening. So, and thanks to all you guys for watching, because without you guys, this doesn't come true. So, you guys are the ones that you truly, by watching this video, you help me, because then I can go get more sponsors and race trophy trucks with the baddest and the best in the business. So, thank you for subscribing. If you don't subscribe, do it. I got to jump on another meeting right now, and I'm already late. So, we'll see you at the next video. comment. We're gonna have 3 videos just about this Baja 500. And if you didn't already see, we have all the pre-run videos, which are sick. So the before, the during, and now the after. So go check it out. We'll see you next week or next one. We're out.